evening, or good morning, or whatever we have collectively decided to call this heavy velvet blackness pressing against the glass today. This is Dr. Freeman, broadcasting from the observation deck of the Zenith Tower. And if you're hearing my voice, it means you have survived another rotation of a world that no longer knows the sun. It has been exactly 365 days since the sky was choked out by the soot and the ash of the Great Veiling. 1 full year since the last true sunrise. I remember sitting in this very chair watching the horizon through my binoculars, waiting for the gold to break the purple, but the gold never came. Instead, we got the gray, and then the charcoal, and then the permanent midnight that has become our shroud. I am looking out over the city now, and it is a vista of broken teeth and stagnant shadows. From this height, the ruins of the metropolis look like a graveyard for giants. There are no streetlights, no neon signs flickering for attention, no rhythmic pulse of traffic. There is only the stillness. When the outbreak first began, the airwaves were crowded. You couldn't turn the dial without hearing some frantic official shouting about quarantine zones or the latest ultraviolet countermeasures. I remember the fake news reports, the ones that told us the military was winning, that the infected were being contained in the lower districts, and that a chemical dispersal agent would soon clear the atmosphere. They told us to stay indoors and wait for the dawn, but the dawn was a lie, and the military was just a collection of frightened men who bled as easily as the rest of us. Now the airwaves are mostly static, and the occasional automated distress signal from a colony that likely stopped breathing months ago. I keep talking because the silence is a weight I am not yet ready to carry. Looking down at the plaza directly below the tower, I can see them. They are more active tonight. Perhaps they know it is an anniversary. They move with a fluid, terrifying grace that we never possessed. In the beginning, we called them monsters, but after a year, the word feels inadequate. They are the new tenants of the earth. I see a group of them gathered around the dried-up fountain in the center of the square. They don't speak, not in any way we understand, but they communicate in tilts of the head and sudden violent bursts of movement. One of them is wearing the tattered remains of a blue coat. It might have been a postal worker once or a teacher. Now it is just a pale silhouette with eyes that catch what little ambient light remains in this dying world. The buildings across the street are crumbling. The glass of the Grand Hotel has mostly shattered, leaving the rooms open to the elements like hollowed-out rib cages. I can see curtains flapping in the wind, white ghosts waving surrender to a war that ended a long time ago. The trees in the park have all died, of course. Without photosynthesis, they became brittle skeletons within months. The survivors use the wood for fires, but the smoke is thick and bitter, and it only adds to the haze that keeps us in the dark. I wonder if the children born this year will even believe in the concept of a blue sky. To them, the world will always be various shades of obsidian and slate. I spent most of the afternoon reading through the old journals I found in the station library. It is strange to read about the trivialities of 14 months ago. People were worried about the economy, about political shifts, about the price of fuel. It seems so quaint now. Our economy is measured in cans of peaches and liters of filtered water. Our politics are dictated by the strength of the locks on our doors and fuel. Fuel is the only thing keeping this transmitter alive, and my reserves are a shallow pool that grows smaller with every hour I spend talking to the void. I often ask myself why I stayed up here. The observation deck is a gilded cage, but it offers a perspective that those in the bunkers don't have. They live in the dirt, hearing the scratches on the steel doors, imagining the horrors outside. I see the horrors, I watch them hunt. I watch the way they have organized themselves into something resembling a feudal society. They aren't just mindless beasts. They are patient. They have all the time in the world because they no longer age and the sun is no longer there to burn them away. I saw a fire on the horizon about an hour ago, somewhere near the old harbor. It was a bright, angry orange, a stark contrast to the monochrome landscape. It lasted for 20 minutes before it was smothered by the dark. I wonder who lit it. Was it a signal for help or a funeral pyre? There was a time when a fire that size would have brought sirens and helicopters, a frantic mobilization of resources. Now it is just a brief flicker in the eye of a dying god. The harbor itself is a graveyard of rusted hulls. The water hasn't moved in a long time. Coincidental, it looks like black oil, thick and unyielding. Sometimes I turn off all the lights in the studio and just sit in the pitch black. I try to remember the feeling of heat on my skin. Not the artificial warmth of a space heater, but the searing honest heat of a July afternoon. I remember how we used to complain about it. We used to hide in the air conditioning, cursing the brightness. What a luxury that was. To have too much light, to have too much life. Now the cold is a constant companion. It seeps through the reinforced glass, it settles in my bones, and it reminds me that the world is cooling down. Without the sun, we are just a rock spinning in a cold cellar. The rumors of the everlasting light colony still circulate on the shortwave bands from time to time. They say there is a place in the mountains where the clouds have parted and where they have built a massive array of artificial suns. I don't believe it. If such a place existed, the shadows would be moving toward it, and I haven't seen a mass migration. The shadows are content right here. They have plenty to eat, and the ruins provide 1,000 hiding places. I watched a man run across the street 3 nights ago. He was fast, but he wasn't quiet. He made it halfway across the intersection before they dropped from the fire escapes. It wasn't a struggle. It was an eclipse. They swarmed over him. For a moment, he was just a lump of darkness against the gray asphalt. Then the darkness dispersed and there was nothing left but a stain. We are the ghosts now, hiding in the high places and the deep holes, watching the new world inherit our leftovers. I look at the shelves of this studio, at the gold records and the plaques for broadcasting excellence, and they feel like artifacts from a prehistoric era. They have no value. A sharp knife has value. A heavy bolt has value. A voice on the radio, I'm not so sure. Maybe I am just a habit. The world hasn't kicked yet. I find myself talking to the people I used to know, even though I know they aren't listening. I tell my wife about The View. I tell my daughter that I've kept her favorite book on the desk. It helps to pretend that the audience is still there, sitting in their cars during the evening commute, or washing dishes in a brightly lit kitchen. The decay is not just in the buildings, it is in the air itself. There is a metallic tang to everything. The smell of ozone and old blood. The wind howls through the elevator shafts of this tower like a wounded animal. I try to keep the station clean, but the dust finds its way in. It is a fine gray powder that tastes like ash. I think it is the city itself slowly grinding into nothingness. We are living in the long shadow of a civilization that forgot how fragile the light really was. We took the sun for granted. We thought it was a permanent fixture, a cosmic right. We never considered what we would become if the lights went out and never came back on. As I look out now, the moon is obscured by that thick, unnatural haze, leaving only a faint, sickly glow in the upper atmosphere. It is enough to see the outlines of the skyscrapers, but not enough to see the faces of the things that own them now. I can hear the hum of the generator downstairs. It is a rhythmic, mechanical heartbeat, and I know it is getting tired. When it stops, the silence will finally claim the zenith tower. But until then, I will stay here. I will keep the dial tuned to this frequency. I will describe the way the shadows crawl over the ruins of our vanity. I will be the witness for a year that should never have happened. If you are out there, if you are huddled around a receiver in the dark, know that you are not alone in the night. We are all just waiting for a morning that may never come. This has been Dr. Freeman. 365 days into the long shadow. Stay quiet, stay hidden, and for as long as you can, stay in the light.